Hi, friends, and welcome to 15241 Today Talk, subtitled Jim and Lanny on stage at the Upper St. Clair High School stage. Linda Dazinski is our coordinating producer. Glenn Ward is our producer-director. And we are most honored to have with us today Missie Berteotti, who now works for Ludner Financial, a longtime golfer, a successful golfer here at Upper St. Clair High School, and then to the University of Miami, does a lot of, I got to ask you right off the bat, Missy, could you, if you took a lot of time with Jim Render, could you make him into like a single-digit handicapper?
I'm not so sure about his upper body flexibility.
She already tried. we did have a lesson.
That's the problem, the upper body?
Yeah.
Yes?
That movement.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you did. Have you given Jim lessons?
Yes, I have, and I think he does way better than he says.
No.
Yes. And
I golfed in Florida recently, and those courses are different than what we have
windy.
here. Plus, the green was harder than my head. I mean, I had a beautiful shot, came right down by the pin, rolled off and into the weeds. I couldn't find the ball. I mean, I thought this was a pretty good shot for me.
Yeah.
Such a bragger, isn't he? Yeah.
Well, that was one. I didn't tell you about the other 110.
Well, Missy, we had your brother on, so we figured, hey, if Jerry's been on the show, we need to get Missy to join us as well. At what age did you know that you were going to be, that golf was going to be so special in your life?
Early. For whatever reason, my father golfed. My father was an amateur golfer down the road at Valley Brook, and I wanted to play with my dad as a 10-year-old. Before that, even before Valley Brook. But anyways, as a 10-year-old, I wanted to golf with my dad and his buddies, and he said, no, you're not good enough. Girls shouldn't be playing with the guys. You're not good enough. I still remember that. My father's deceased now for the last 18 years already, but my mom's still healthy, thankfully, and I talked to her about that. I said, I remember my dad telling me that. So I remember we practiced in the yards. You know, I just wanted to hit balls to get good enough to play with my dad, honestly.
And so what age did you finally become good enough to play with your dad?
Probably 15, 16, and I do recall Mr., a little macho Italian. When I started playing with him and doing all right, his buddies were teasing him and saying, like, Jerry, can you beat your daughter? And my dad did not like that. You know, he was getting ribbed from his buddies. So...
Did he coach you? Did he help you?
No. I think he was, looking back at now, having coached for my whole son's life, I coached part-time while I raised my son. So it was a great opportunity to be with moms and parents and see how the parents influence the kids. And my dad, I remember him saying that too. They just never, I think the times were different. You talk about helicopter parents now.
Yeah.
He dropped me off at the golf course on the way to work and picked me up on the way home. And he wasn't at all, neither my mom. They just, hung out with me and supported me. And I don't think they knew what I was getting into. I didn't know what I was getting into.
What, did you have a coach, though? I mean, did somebody...
Johnny Reck, the head pro at Valley Brook, was great. He and I are still really good friends. I love him. But, and I think about this. Pittsburgh, I think it does follow the stereotype. They're tough, tough mindsets. It's not like, great shot, Missy. It's like, what do you call that? get your act together. Hit 200 more balls and I'll see you after lunch. Like, that was the extent of the hand-holding in the lesson. It wasn't, 5 hours of clinic. And so, of course, I had no reference, and that's just how I grew up. And, it worked for me, fortunately. But I think about it now, because now we have academies for golf, and they send their kids away at 12 years old. And they send them to Florida or Hilton Head, and they have high schools and prep schools and cyber schools. So it's a different world.
Must have been an awful lot of natural ability. Yeah, because you've already said you didn't have a lot of coaching per se. Yeah,
and I think about that now too, having coached a lot of kids. Some kids just don't have it. God, no disrespect. We all have different talents. And I was, the older, it took me a long time to realize, wow, I did that. I don't know how I did that.
So you arrived at Upper St. Clair High School, and you met Alex Perinas, who was a colleague of mine, and he was the golf coach.
And again, honestly, there's so many different paths. I love to talk about excellence and what it takes to get excellent, and coaching and sports psychology. That's a topic I always am intrigued by, and what does it take to mold this kid or maintain your own. I tried a lot on tour. After I kind of plateaued on tour, I was so frustrated I couldn't bust into the top 20 consistently. That just killed me, honestly. And
Well, you're getting ahead of us.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's
Alice.
go back.
Yeah, back to Alice.
Well, let's go back to high school.
Yeah.
I don't have all these things. How many WPIL championships did you win?
I should know that too. I think two, and then I wrecked. I won Whitfields, and I was getting ready to go to states, PIAAs, and I took a lesson in October out in Westmoreland where my other coach was, and I was driving home through the tunnels and fell asleep with my heater on in my car. I've always been laid back. I can fall asleep right here. I've always been, it's embarrassing, but that was dangerous. I almost, died, so I was unable to play states. So I think I won 2 Whitfields and 1 state. I had a college scholarship offer, then I smashed my car. That was right before my senior year. I was, slotted to win states again to defend, and then I got hurt. So I was so glad Miami still honored my scholarship when I couldn't walk. I went down there for my visit, and I was limping around. So it all worked out somehow.
That's interesting, that you can't remember how many
I know.
WPIL championships.
I should know that.
Well,
I don't want to say
right.
it doesn't matter. It's so long ago.
Well, did you make the right choice going to Miami?
Yes, and that was confusing because I was so allured for some reason to go to Chapel Hill. I just had that in my mind, and that coach, dangled something, a scholarship, and then she kind of said half and back and forth. And the Miami coach was just always solid, saying, "We want you." And I remember, again, my dad. My dad was outspoken, kind of like my brother Jerry. I don't know how, I feel like I'm soft-spoken. My brother, he has no hesitancy of telling me what he thinks I should do. And I never do that to him. But
I knew your dad pretty well.
Was he,
He was a good businessman and a good person. A little strict and so forth. What I'm recalling is when we won the WPIL championship, he was like the chairman of we were going to get rings for the players, and he was the chairman of the ring committee.
Was he?
Yeah, and there was no givens. You had to prove to him, and he did a good job.
Huh. Yeah, he was tough. And now I'm in the business world for the first time in my life, and I'm having to exercise a whole different set of skill set. Before, as a golf pro, I hate to say it this way, I didn't need anybody. I didn't need to influence anybody. I didn't need to talk to anybody. I just needed to perform, and I could do that. But then life happens, families, relationships, work. It's all a different skill set. So I think my dad was good at that, but...
So let's go back.
Yeah. So
you move too quick.
I go everywhere.
Well, tell us a little bit about your experiences at the U at Miami.
At Miami, yeah. So my dad said to me, he said, "Go where they want you. The hell with this Chapel Hill lady." So I did, and they wanted me. The coach was a LPGA pro, so I thought I'd get good mentoring, and I loved it there. I thought I ended up in heaven with the weather. I never had experienced that. So I loved it. The downside was the lady that recruited me, the lady coach, a professional golfer, she quit in our first, 2 months. And I then went on to have 3 coaches in college. Each one was just kind of a figurehead, I'd have to say. And we raised ourselves. I played with all the men on the men's team and a couple of the ladies. So, and again, looking back, I had a great time. I played a lot. I didn't practice because I didn't have an instructional coach. And nowadays, probably the trend is to more instruct. So in a weird way, I think people stayed away from me. I just played, and there's a lot of value to that in sports psychology.
What kind of success did you or the team have at
We
Miami?
did great. I mean, it's so funny. We had 3 coaches. They didn't even live on campus. We won the national championship. Us players weren't even really, we were pretty good friends, but it was very loose. It was a very loose team. There was no cohesiveness that you'd think to have as a coach. But we were all individually motivated, period. We were all that was our future, and we're all still best friends to this day. I won the individual portion of the championship and lost the title in a playoff. So I tied, and then I lost. That's one thing I'm still bummed about, but that was so many years ago. But we won the national championship, and I had a great time at Miami. I loved it. I still have a house down there. I live down there.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll go back. I don't know. I keep getting more entrenched. I swore I'd never come back to Pittsburgh when I first went there, and now I squeeze a week or 2 away and go down there. We'll see.
Well, then after Miami, you went on the tour.
Yeah, that's probably, if you talk to golfers, the golf, to be a golf pro, you have 1 shot per year. It's called qualifying school. So it's a tournament, and there's a local section, then a regional, and then the national. And it's pressure. And the women's side, if you don't make it, you can go to the sub tours, the mini tours, but you make no money. Now the men at least have a backup tour. So, I knew, I had a shot. So I went to Miami. I knew qualifying school was coming in October. So I graduated in May. I didn't come home for the summer. I wanted to be alone and focus for October. And honestly, Jim, I think about that. You think of all the different stages of your life and how you acted and who knows why you did it. But I knew I needed to be alone. Knew I needed to be prepped. And I think that really helped. I went to Fort Worth, Texas. I had a 70-year-old golf pro, a friend of the family's who I played with every day. And I just was focused. And I made that, and a lot of girls who don't make it the first one, I've known so many, they miss, and the pressure mounts, and they miss the following year, and their careers just never get off the ground. So I did make it that year, that first try. I remember my dad did fly down to Houston. It was so funny. He had a limp. He had a little limp. It was so hot. It was unbearably hot, 4 days. And I remember making that final putt. He said, let's get that. That was it. Let's get out of here. I'm exhausted. So that was it. So my career started, and I eked out 14 years, won 1 time. Everybody congratulates me, these days, like, you're a pro golfer. But sometimes, mostly from my opinion, I feel like, I did okay. But I, woulda, coulda, shoulda, if I would have known better back then. But it's how
What do you mean if you'd known better?
I feel like I should have won more. I feel like I could have had.
Looking back now, what is it that you didn't do that you should have done?
I think, a lot of just some confirmation. And I think I needed it again, as a competitor. I was a young 20-year-old woman, young girl, out on the tour. I mean, I lived in my van. Like, there's no preparation. My parents, I truly don't, I know they didn't know what they were getting into. I didn't know. And so you're 20 years old, and there's Pat Bradley, who, if you know her, she's kind of like Mean Joe Green. It's intimidating. And that messed up my focus. I couldn't focus as well on my golf when I was dealing with everything. It took a while. It just cost me some years. Technique-wise, I wasn't quite certain of a few things I should have addressed in my mechanics, and I was just holding on tight, so I kind of needed to retool maybe. But again, there weren't really I don't know. I just feel like I probably could have benefited from somebody who had been there and said, listen, the heck with her, don't worry about what the heck she's saying, let's deal with you and let's go. I maybe needed a little bit of that, but I'm generally too hard on myself.
So going between tour stops, were you driving everywhere?
A lot. I mean, we made decent money, but it wasn't like I came home in between every week. No. If we were in San Diego and the following week was Tucson, no sense coming to Pittsburgh. So Yeah, I mean, I lived on the road. I'd come home every now and then, and when I did come home, I'd sleep. I was so exhausted from running around. Everybody wanted to golf with me. I'm like, that's the last thing I want to do. My whole life's been like that. Everybody wants to golf, and I'm
So you were on the tour 14 years?
14, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have guessed that for some reason.
Yeah, and I think like 14 years on tour, 4 years college. College was on tour. I mean, we played every day. I lived at Doral, the golf resort. We had so much fun. We played every day, and never got tired. Never got bored. You know, I remember coming home from trips, locking myself into the library and studying because I was the only player who had a real major, and it was hard, but that's all I did. And then, you know, my dad handled a lot of my business and finances when I was on the tour. I remember going to Valley Brook, and we had paper checks back then. We'd have lunch. He'd say, "Give me your money." I'd give him these checks, and he'd invest it all. So fast forwarding ahead, I never really felt like I had the time to have lavish lifestyle, so I didn't spend a whole lot. And then fast forwarding a lot of years, it's hard to date on the tour. You're just always a nomad. But I met this guy, he became my son's dad. We were married, we were together almost 6 years, and then we got divorced. So now I have this 1-year-old, 2-year-old. So I stopped playing. I came home to regroup, and I thought I'd go back, but I just couldn't get the interest back. But all that money I invested allowed me, I'm so thankful I had a fun lifestyle with my son. You know, I got to be home.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned your son a couple of times. Is he a golfer?
No, it's so fun. He is a golfer. He grew up, I did golf clinics for kids. I love teaching kids. So he was pretty good, but he also did tennis, and he liked tennis. I know nothing about tennis. And in 10th grade, he called me from his school, and he said, high school, and he said, he was crying almost on the phone. And I said, "Do I need to come? I need to talk to you." So he came home, got off the bus, and he said, "I love you, but I'm quitting golf. I want to focus on tennis. I want to play college tennis, and I want to be a pro." And I said, "Is that the problem?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "We're okay." So he's a junior as we speak at St. Joseph's in Philly, playing on the tennis team. So he's
his name?
Sam.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so he's a junior at St. Joseph's.
Right.
And do you think he has a chance to be a tennis pro?
I don't know. I was just there 2 weekends ago. He is the most. I thought I was committed. And I guess, I honestly tried to be a casual parent because I didn't want to make my son, like I had seen some of these golf parents do to their kids, maybe make them too, whatever the word is. But he's driven. He's really driven. So he still wants to be a pro. He's majoring in computer science, which it's so much easier being the pro versus being the pro's parent. As the kid, you just do it. As the parent, you're double checking everything. So honestly, I just try to leave him go. He says some success, but not as much. But he's still holding on to that dream. So we'll see. I just tell him I love him and good luck. Get out there, have fun.
I think I had the privilege of following you around at the U.S. Open at Oakmont.
I do remember that. Yeah. Oh.
That was
1992.
It was fun for me to watch you at that level.
Thank you. That was a big tournament for me, like a hometown, and I prepared on that course a lot that summer because it was kind of like a big deal for women to get to play Oakmont. It was my hometown, and I was bragging to all my girlfriends, "Wait till you play this course. This course is brutal." And then, if you remember, they called it Soakmont because it rained terribly. It's like a monsoon, and they called it Soakmont. And I was so used to, years of the ball, going so fast and rolling so fast at Oakmont. It was hard to retool. But also Rocco Mediate, I'm still kind of, I'll tease him. He made me hire a coach that early in that summer. And this coach changed my whole form. And I was not playing my best at all going into that, so I was a little bit on edge. Then, of course, I wanted to do well in front of my family, and that was a tough test. I finished, and I think I did go to bed for a week. That was emotionally exhausting, that course. It's tough. But I'm glad I did it.
Plus, as you said, you wanted to do well because it was
Yeah.
your hometown.
Yeah, I think I put too much pressure. But I made the cut right on the button. So, as an older lady, I'm like, I made the cut, but there's a sign in the locker room, all the history. The history in that clubhouse, I'm sure you've seen that. Isn't that amazing?
I haven't.
Oh, you've got to just go over there for lunch one day and walk. It's like a museum. But my name's up there, so I'm with some of the mere mortals up there,
How you mentioned a moment ago about being so mentally tired after that.
Yeah.
What about the mental aspect of the game of golf?
Yeah, I think it's it's funny now. Oh gosh, how to condense this into 1 minute. It's very requiring is what I'll say. I think every endeavor in life is that you want to perform well in. Sports, I'm a little biased. I'm a little biased. I think sports requires everything, emotional, physical, mental. So does business though. But I think golf, maybe if you have an argument of golf compared to any other sports, there's so much in between time of the action. Like in football, you're on. Tennis, you're hitting. Golf, you hit and you wait for a minute and you have to experience that embarrassment. If you hit a bad shot, you have to absorb that, re-bolster yourself back up. And so I think it took something. It took something. I don't know how to explain it, honestly, in a quick setting, but I'm glad I did it. Looking back, honestly, I think it makes you realize you can do things, and that I'm so biased to sports. When you can develop that self-trust, that self-esteem, that initiative in anybody, that's life. So I feel like I can handle things, I think, in life.
You are tough on yourself.
Am I?
Well, you mentioned that a little while ago, and which to me is why you were successful.
Yeah. That's why I was torn as a parent, honestly. Like there is a fine line. I mean, you guys both know it. Like, as a kid, as a player, I don't care about whatever, luxuries. You just want to grind it out and win. That's easy. But as a parent, you want your son to be happy, all that stuff. So it's interesting. But it's interesting.
Those of us that love the game, I think it's the greatest sport ever, golf. And I don't play it well, but I love playing. I love playing golf. Do you love the game, or was it so much a job for you that you got to a point where you don't love the game?
That's a great question. Just 2 seconds ago when you said I love the game, I was going to interrupt and say I love when I see people like that. When I play all the time now, I love when I see somebody just love being outside. That typically people work inside. So that inspires me, and I'm envious of that because, yes, it slips more into a pursuit, a work a little bit. It's harder to let go. It's not like dancing. Like, when you dance, you can let go and who cares what happens and you enjoy the experience. And I used to resent that for a while, for a lot of while. Like it's not at all like that. It is concentrative attention for 5 hours every day, and then practice, same thing. So now I play golf as a friend, some as in my business arena, and I can slip back into that hard. I'm like, it's easy. it's so, yeah. I miss.
You give a lot of lessons now.
A little bit, just less. Now I'm more focusing on the financial world. It's stimulating to me. It's new. It's probably not like golf, so it's a whole new arena. I get to be with people. I get to help people. So I love that. I like those numbers. I think probably my dad's probably a connection to my dad. He was in the financial world, the business world. He was an insurance salesman way back when. So for some reason, I've always liked that. So fortunately, I don't have to work every day in a cubicle. I can sneak out, entertain my clients on the golf course. So I've got a nice setup.
You play a lot?
I do. Mostly for business, you know.
I want to go back to another. You had a working relationship or whatever with Arnold Palmer.
Oh yeah.
Do you have a good Arnie story or memory?
Yeah, and again, you look back with hindsight in your life and you think, wow, I was so blessed, you know. But I talked to him like this. It was like, what's up, Arnie? What do you think? Like, and I think about how as a 25-year-old when I played with him, like the audacity that I had to stand there like peer to peer and like, what do you think about that pin? And just every year in the women's tour, on the PGA and LPGA tour, we played one time per year with the men pros. So Rocco Mediate and I would pair up each year. We played in it was the J.C. Penney Classic in Tampa. So Rocco, you know, was pretty close with Arnie, and we arranged it where his partner, which was Tammy Green, she's a friend of mine. So we played with Arnie every year. We probably played about 3 or 4 times. And he was, I mean, to be on this side of the ropes and watch his army, you know, you can't explain that. And he was great. He was great. He was normal, but he had this allure. It was my dad was funny. He was always pretty, like letting me be the show or whatever, keep the spotlight over on Missie. But one year I got paired in the Dinosaur out in Palm Springs with Joe DiMaggio. And then the Arnie things. Those 2 guys, my dad was a big sport. My dad flew into Palm Springs. I was on the first tee with Joe. My dad was like, excuse me, I'm Missie's father. He walked right down the fairway. I never saw Joe DiMaggio. And same thing with Arnie. He hung out with Arnie down there. He had a great time. So, you know, look, and then again, over the years, those stories get bigger and bigger. But it is true.
So you majored in finance, and now you're working with Earl Ludner and Ludner Financial. That fun for you?
I love it. And same thing I said about Arnie. Like, I can't believe the audacity I had to treat him normally before I really knew who he was. Earl was a parent of 2 young girls who he hired me to teach his girls. And, you know, I was just another parent. I just deal with them. I treat him with respect, but I treat him with respect. And then I went to work for him. He always told me, I want you to work for me. We deal with a lot of women like women advisors. Please come to work with me when Sam goes. Think about it. And I always had that in the back of my mind. But then I got into Earl's company, and I have so much more respect for the man, and I almost feel embarrassed how I treated him as just a dad. It's an unbelievable company. It's Northeast region of the United States. So I have colleagues that stimulate me. I love it. So it's pretty good. But I always tease Earl. I say, I'm so sorry. I thought you were just a regular guy like all of us, and he laughs.
I work with the folks at Ludner Financial, so I know of what you speak.
Yeah, I tease them now. They're the Jack Nicklaus's. Like, I'm an absolute rookie. You know, I'm licensed and all that, but I feel like a complete rookie, and I just sit there. It's nice to be on this end, and I love those guys. They're really sharp.
Where do you play most times?
I grew up at Valley Brook, but my mom and dad retired to Nevillewood after I graduated from here, Upper St. Clair. So we still live at Nevillewood, and I play there. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I used to ride my bike there when I was a little girl. So
and even though Sam's into tennis, when you're together, does he play golf?
He's really good. My brother. He's pretty good. I better say something really good here, right?
Let's take a shot at Jerry.
We always fight. We always compete. He's so into it. He's more competitive than I am. I think I lost a lot of competitiveness after the tour. Maybe being a mom, I don't know. Now I'm so casual now, but I try to beat Jerry and I try to beat Sam. But Sam's good. Sam's 6'3". He hits the ball 320 like these kids. Jerry's getting shorter and shorter. I'm accurate and good short game.
Hey, Missy, great having you with us. And just as a follow-up to what you said a moment ago, there's no question in my mind that if you're going to be known as a great golfer or a great mom, being a great mom's, being a great dad, head and shoulders above everything else.
Thanks. I agree with you. Yeah, I feel, I would have liked to have had a longer career and life worked out how it worked out, but I think it was a blessing how it worked out.
Yeah, you're a wonderful person. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Missy.
Thank
Missie
you,
Berteotti
Jimmy.
joining us on stage, 15241 Today Talk. Thanks for joining us.